reading from the letter to the Ephesians. He offered his body on the same sacrificial altar to bring an end to the laws, ordinances, and dictations that separated Jews from the outside nations. His desire was to create in his body one new humanity from the two opposing groups, thus creating peace. Effectively, the cross became God's means to kill off the hostility once and for all so that he is able to reconcile them both to God in this one new body. The great preacher of peace and love came for you, and his voice found those of you who were near and those who were far away. By him both have access to the Father in one Spirit, and so you are no longer called outcasts and wanderers, but citizens with God's people, members of God's holy family, and residents of his household. You are being built on a solid foundation, the message of the prophets and the voices of God's chosen emissaries with Jesus, the anointed himself, the precious cornerstone. The building is joined together stone by stone, all of us chosen and seated in him, rising up to become a holy temple in the Lord. In him, you are being built together, creating a sacred dwelling place among you where God can live in the Spirit. The word of the Lord.
There are really only two kinds of people in the world: people who love cats and everyone else. Bill was one of the latter category. He did not like cats, but he did like his next-door neighbor, the little girl who lived there. And when she came to his door one day and knocked and was in tears and in distress, he was very worried about her. "Honey, what's wrong?" "Well, my cat has climbed up on the tree in your backyard and it won't come down." "Well, I'll help you, honey," he thought, thinking, stupid cat. They went out there, and sure enough, the cat had climbed up at the very top of a tall, young tree Bill had just planted a year ago, just a sapling, really. And they called the stupid cat, and the cat was, kind of holding on for dear life, and the cat wouldn't move. And Bill brought his wife, Jane, out, and Jane opened up a can of tuna. "Here, kitty, here, kitty." Nothing happened, and Bill said, "It's such a slender tree. I bet if I grabbed hold of the trunk and, kind of pulled it down, you could grab the cat." And so he did. He grabbed hold of the tree, and he, hand over hand, was pulling it down, and the tree was arcing down, and Jane was up on her tiptoes trying to get the cat, and she almost had him. And Bill didn't mean to do it. But somehow he lost his grip, and the tree whipped back up. The cat went sailing into space, never to be seen again. And Bill and Jane consoled their little neighbor, and she went home heartbroken, and Bill thought that's the end of that. But the very next day, he was in the grocery store and bumped into one of his neighbors who lived behind him. And in her cart, there were cans of cat food and a little collar and a catnip mouse. And he said, "Why, Doris, I didn't know you and Jim had a cat." And she said, "Well, we didn't. But the oddest thing happened yesterday. We were out in the backyard, and this cat came flying through the air and landed at our feet." And Jim said to me, "Look, Doris, the Lord sent us a cat." Friends, you're the cat. You are the cat, and God is about to send you out into somebody's backyard. Now, I like my backyard. My backyard has my friends in it and my dog and all the things that I like to do. I like my backyard, but God doesn't care about my backyard. God's going to send me and you too into the yard of God's own choosing. And there's some pretty tough yards in the bounds of Texas Annual Conference. Did you know that Houston is number 2 in the nation in human trafficking? That runaway children are within 48 hours average sold into into sexual slavery. And the average age of such a child is 12. Average age, 12. Up in beautiful East Texas where I live, one of the counties in the bounds of the Northwest District is second county in the nation in the production and distribution of methamphetamines. Families are destroyed. People are destroyed. And you know what? The 13-year-old sold by a pimp for $50 for half an hour does not care about how many resolutions we pass. And the family wrecked by addiction to drugs does not care who gets elected to what. And the teenager contemplating suicide because of a deep shame over his or her sexual identity will not find hope nor comfort in amendments to amendments and does not care where the bar of the conference is located. Our backyards are filled with people starving for mercy and grace. How can we keep silent? How can we do nothing? We are called upon by God, deployed by God, to show and tell folks about Jesus. It's not enough just to tell people about Jesus. They won't believe a word of it. Or to do nice things for people. The Rotary Club does nice things for people all the time. We have to demonstrate by our words and the way that we choose to live with one another and among one another that Jesus is Lord and that his love for us is so wide and long and deep and high. It is the love of Christ that can save the world and everybody's backyard. In the words of those great and yet subtle theologians, the Blues Brothers, we are on a mission from God. Can you feel the tree swaying underneath you? Get ready, Cat Nation. God is about to deploy us. We want people in every backyard in the bounds of our annual conference and far beyond and around the world to say, look what the Lord sent us. Amen.